Hello, my name is Al Blair. The marketing team has asked me to update our overview demonstration for the web, for a web video of Office Accounting 365. And the first thing I'd want to do here is, in fact, they cautioned me, Al, make sure you highlight the fact that this version is also available not only on the web, but also for traditional in-house installations to run on PCs and servers that are in an office. And so I want to make sure I highlight that right off the bat. So everything you're going to see, although this recording is made from a version that is actually running right now live over the internet, and I'll show you an example of that later, but this is just an overview presentation of what some of the functionalities and features are in the Office Accounting 365 system. Your various modules are highlighted with tabs, obviously. General ledger, for example, budgeting, cash management. So the complete core system includes AP, AR, GL, budgeting, cash management, and of course system utilities out here at the end. The add-on or optional modules that are available to you include payroll, and this is a full 50-state payroll, and there's a lot of information on the website about that, as well as sales, purchasing, and inventory control. So when you go to a program or to a module, for example, like accounts payable, then you see the various icons that are highlighted here on the ribbon, and you already are aware of the fact that we've adopted the Microsoft Office ribbon look and feel so that our program becomes very familiar and compatible with Microsoft Office. So for example, and please, I'm not going to drill down on every single icon and every single function here. That would be outside the scope, and we wouldn't have enough time for all of that. But I will click on, for example, vendor invoices, and the first thing that comes up quite often is a setup. Do you want to add a new one into the system? Do you want to create a new one, or do you want to edit an existing one? If you're going to edit an existing one, there's a drop-down list box, and you pick, which vendor are you looking for, and then what invoice are you looking for, and here it brings that information up, and you can add a description and a quantity and stuff like that. Our system is default based so that the GL number is basically established as a default for all these various transactions. And I think what I'm going to do is just step back for just a minute because I failed to overview this. I'll go to System Utilities just for a second. We're going to go out to the company profile, and this is what I mean specifically. This is where you've established, so you don't have to re-enter this. Now let's talk a little bit about the underlying structure. These numbers and these descriptions are yours. In other words, you're not locked into some kind of a predefined, if you need a 6-digit number or an 8-digit number, whatever you need, within reason, up to I think a total of 9 for each of these segments. But like 1040, for example, is cash in the bank, and we have an unlimited number of bank accounts. And so that's the first segment, is your account number and your description. You can, but you don't have to use. You can add multiple divisions, and you can add multiple departments. It just depends on what makes sense for your company and your operation and your business. So there's a 4-segment GL number, division, department, or product, and these would just be 0 if you're not using them. So when we go in and we look at various transactions, we've got templates for AP, we've got recurring invoices for AP, your ability to select, basically there's many options you can use to select invoices that you want to pay, and rather than dwell on that, and you print the checks, you can add handwritten, right now you could do a handwritten check if you needed to. You can do an online inquiry. What I'm basically doing here is taking all of the accounts pay, and I'm going to expand the universe a little bit and go up to the year 2000. So for the last 13 years in the little sample test database here, and we'll go ahead and bring this out and select it by vendors by date. So bang, right there it is. There's a complete, what are the ones that you've paid if these have been paid, I could drill down and I want to take a look at this $1,850 invoice over here for AT&T, and I double click and it'll drill down, and you'll notice up here on the right it gives me the line items on that as well as the date the payments were made. So that drill down capability, that online drill down capability right down to the original source transaction, that's pervasive all the way through the system. I meant to cancel that. Accounts receivable, well, I think enough on accounts payable. I think there's analysis for unpaid invoices, payment history. You can void your checks. You can select records. I might go in here real quickly. We maintain an integrated CRM system behind the scenes here, so that all the information for vendors and customers, employees, and other entities maintained in a easy to get at way, and you can look at those records at any point in time. Over in accounts receivable, we got regular invoices, itemized invoices. Let me cancel these. Recurring invoices, customer statements. We can get all the customer statements out for a given period of time. In this particular case, I think you just toggle through these. Here's number 1, here's number 2, here's number 3, here's number 4, and number 5. And we can format those to meet the requirements that you have in your business. Various reports, obviously, both AP and A. I'll go back to AR, for example, and we'll look at for an aging report, for example. And this is, you can set this up by date, by month, by date, by however you want to do this. The days between your aging periods, the date to begin aging here. And it'll just go out and do that and perform that function and bring that information out. Incidentally, this is as good a time as any. I could have selected just an individual. I could have just selected an individual customer here. Now, when you've got a report in our system, you can do a number of things with it. We include the quick toolbar. You see up here the quick toolbar functions. You could literally print this, or you could email this right now. You could also right mouse, and you could immediately export this information to Excel or PDF, or you could actually right now go, email this particular report to the customer as a, whatever makes sense in the context of the way you do your business. So those kind of capabilities are also pretty universally contained. The T&M, I probably should mention this. This is the itemized billing. I'm going to edit one here. We'll just bring up one so you can see. I think the point I want to make here is probably not, I don't know whether the records make any sense, but we'll just grab an invoice number. Basically, what this little drop-down list box that you're going to see, these are items that you can set up. For example, if you rent equipment or you bill for certain services, and you have a pretty good idea of what those items are going to be, the way you want them described, and what the rates are going to be for the quantity or the hours or that sort of. So this is sort of an inexpensive way to bill for time and materials or items out of your inventory without having the full-blown inventory system, or without having a full-blown job cost system, which we certainly have. On the eTEK side of the house, we've got a complete project-oriented, construction project-oriented that has a complete time and materials and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't need the full-blown, over here on the Office Accounting 365 family of products, we've got a very simplified time and materials billing through what's basically an itemized invoicing capability. I just want you to be aware of that. Okay, and obviously general ledger is going to include a lot of inquiries and details. This would be a good time to do something and get it out of the way so I don't forget it. I'm going to do, now keep in mind, what I'm recording in this video is I'm actually recording Office Accounting 365 running live right now over the internet on my browser, on my PC. So I'm going to go out here and do an online inquiry. I'm going to grab every GL account in the shop or in the sample database. I'm going to change the date range to include full 13 years of history. And now I'm going to click OK. And this is the point I want to make is, again, over the internet, here's what I'm doing over the internet. Click OK, bang, comes back 2005 records. Now, just for fun, I'm going to grab and bring up on the screen the local version of Office 365. You see how it's local. It's on top of the version that I'm recording over the internet. Now I'm going to put it in the same frame so you can see what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the same thing now on the local version running on my desktop, not over the internet. Again, not over the internet. Why am I doing this? I just want to make a very simple point, because we sometimes are asked, you know, is it going to be slower or faster or whatever? And so here's the local version. Bang, 2005. Okay, let me get rid of that. And let's go back over here and do this one more time. Okay, now I'm on the internet. I'm going to go get all of the history for 13 years of GL accounts. I click on OK, bang, and there it is. So there really isn't any significant difference. Please understand, there's not any significant delay. If you have GoToMeeting sessions or you do things over the internet sometimes and you're worried about the speed or the performance of running your accounting system and entering transactions and getting information out, rest assured you're not going to have you're really not going to even be aware after a certain point in time that you're actually doing this on the internet. Okay, back to General Ledger. I just want to real quickly select let's see. Well, okay, an operating statement. The selection options here are pervasive. In other words, you can pick any past period or current period. I'll go ahead and just grab the first period that's available. You can run the P&L or operating statements on a consolidated basis or a division or departmental basis. If I were to select department, then it's going to want to know, okay, Al, you know, within what division do you want what department, okay, that sort of thing. And then I could pull that all together, or I can consolidate that. A lot of you who may be interested in our software and you actually own multiple companies, keep in mind this software will work for multiple companies. But if you have a uniform chart of accounts that you've adopted, a lot of users will go ahead and set up multiple divisions, and we'll consolidate that automatically for you here. Now the standard format is kind of, you know, an operating statement is an operating statement is an operating statement. I mean, and we can change this format to meet your requirements. And obviously you've got sales at the top and current period amount compared to budget, year to date compared amount to budget, etc. And we've got various versions of that that are implied here. The comparative, if you select the comparative version, then you're going to get a comparative to prior. You're going to get a calculation of the actual as a percent of sales, for example, as well as compared to the prior year and all that kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of options here. I'm going to go ahead and get out of this. We could spend all day on financial reports. But back to the general ledger, the other thing I wanted to show you here is that there's a built-in, very robust audit trail and audit list in our system. And if you double-click, for example, if you want to go down, and incidentally, you can toggle this. If you're looking for a specific date of a transaction or a certain discount amount or whatever it may be, if I take this, oh, here's something kind of interesting. There's a $50,000 void on an AP invoice. So if I double click this, it's going to bring up essentially the hard document on this that describes what invoice and who this was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all the way through the system, and that's why accountants really, if your accountant's part of your decision-making process, let me encourage them to talk to us a little bit about the audit trails in terms of in fact, over in inventory, we've got probably the best audit trails on inventory adjustments in the business. Okay, enough on that. Let me go to budgeting. You know, this is where you're budgeting your operating accounts. And there's all kinds of budget reports or budget overviews and comparison, and there's different ways to do that, either on a yearly or a specific account basis. Over here on cash management, I think probably the highlight there is obviously we've got all the disbursement journals and receipts journals, sales journals, purchase journals, and the same thing on bank reconciliation. In fact, if I go to the edit part, now let me just go to bank reconciliation very, very briefly. Again, our software allows you to use an unlimited number of different kind of banking accounts. And if I have a situation, good, this came up, I was hoping it would. Here's a situation where I'm going in under bank rec on a given bank account, and the system is prompting me and saying, hey, this is one that where you left it the last time you worked this. you didn't complete the reconciliation, okay? So would you like to finish work? And I'll say yes, just to bring up the information, okay? And what's going to come up now, it's basically automatically filled in the beginning balance and all that kind of stuff. And now for various transaction types, whether it's checks, deposits, or other transactions like fees, service fees, things like that, you basically have built into the program here for an unlimited number of bank accounts the ability to do the bank reconciliation and make sure your cash accounts are, and it's prompting me now. It's saying your bank account's not in balance. You want, yeah, I'll come back to it. It automatically prompts me when I come back to it. Okay, and then system utilities, which is included in the core system. I think I've already highlighted that, but I do want to reiterate the fact that security, you have the ability, and I'm just going to show you a picture of that. And again, now I'm talking to the person in your organization who will be the system administrator. You have the ability to go in here and say, okay, for Barbara Stone, who's an active user, here's her password, here's her initials. So when she logs on to Office Accounting 365, the first screen that comes up will ask her for her logon and her password. That will then determine, based upon what you do next, you are in control of what Barbara has access to do. And so here's all the different capabilities in our system. And if you want her to be in charge of payroll, and only her, then you would basically give her the capabilities for, you know, entering time records and things like that. So as a system administrator in our software, you're able to configure each desktop, each user, and determine exactly what they do, what they're allowed to do, and what they're not allowed to do. And of course, system utility has other capabilities, including beyond the security thing. We have an archiving ability where you can select certain data to archive, all kinds of practical, like lists and labels and things like that. Okay, let me conclude and wrap up a little bit with a highlight on the add-on modules. The payroll system allows an unlimited number of different kinds of earnings and deduction records. And we could go on and on and on forever about that. I'll just select an employee, for example, and we'll see, you know, I don't know whether we, but here, for example, is, I'll go look at the earnings records that's been set up for Alan, and I can also look up for the deductions. There's no limit on the number of different deduction types that you can set up, both pre-tax and you know, based on gross as well as net. So the system is very pervasive that way. And when you get around to entering time in the payroll module, we've got a real quick, easy way for you to enter the time. You can select, you just select the employee, whatever the time period is, and the dates. We'll select Alan again, the day he worked, what's his wage class, the regular hours, time and a half, double time, whatever, and you just enter that kind of record. You can also do a much simpler timesheet kind of approach as well. As we also have remote data, remote time entry if that's of interest. And of course, you can calculate the payroll. You can undo the current payroll. You can create direct deposits. You can direct those. You can do an online inquiry to earnings and taxes withheld, employee information. There's innumerable reports, including all the various workers' comp, time distribution, check history, vacation, sick time, all of those kinds of things. And of course, there's the ability to add employee information and that sort of thing. Obviously, there would be. And at the month end, you've got various reports that you want to run, and quite frankly, the quarterly reports are important enough that there's in a separate category your 941s, your FUTA, SUTA, your workers' comp, and of course at the end of the year the W-2s, all that sort of thing. In terms of sales, I'm just going to give you the very top of the trees. We have a full-blown sales order, work order processing system that's integrated with the inventory. And basically can feed you can go ahead and sell a product and invoice a product from this. I'll do a little inquiry here. Let's just look at a sales report. That's probably the best thing to do. Here's for the given period in time. We'll just go ahead and grab, again, I'm expanding the history of the database so we get a little more records up here. We'll take all of our customers and we'll go up to, I didn't comment about these common toolbars, but you've probably already noticed over here on the right is print and the common actions, new and save and stuff like that. So here's a preview of the report, sales report, and again, it's basically going out and calculating what you shipped and what was the price and the gross sales, the inventory cost, what's the gross margin. So you want to do gross margin profit analysis by customer, and I kind of skipped over this. I'll go back and close this, but obviously the setup, I could do the same thing I could select only certain items, or I could select only certain salespeople, that sort of thing. But there's a lot of sales analysis reporting capability built in here. Same thing over on the purchasing side, and obviously you create purchase orders and you approve purchase orders, and you can create requisitions, and then you receive the material, and then you move the material to, depending on how many different locations you have, and then you can actually invoice. You basically don't have to re-enter the AP invoice when you get, if you get the AP invoice for what you ordered and you've received it, then you can just go right up here and say, okay, I'm just going to create get that invoice, and I don't have to re-enter all that data. You can do a purchase order inquiry and look at the status of purchase orders, whether they're closed or open, and that sort of thing. In fact, I think there's a drill down. I'm going to go down here, and well, yeah, here this gives you a good idea. You may want to look at this approved purchase order with Ace Hardware, and you could double click on that, and it says, oh, okay, is that order? Well, what was that on that order? So there's a 3-level drill down right there that I just showed you. It's showing you exactly what was on that sales order and the status at this. You could drill down from the status. Okay, over at inventory, which I'm going to wrap up with, there's all kinds of capabilities here where you can maintain all kinds of both inventory and non-inventory. This is a really important checkpoint over here. What I'm going to drill down and I'll just grab an item just for fun, but basically this is a hard item. In other words, it's not a non-inventory item. What's a non-inventory item? A non-inventory item could be things like freight charges or just handling or what. I mean, you could have those line items set up. And again, here's the price, the unit of measure you set for that, the unit status, how many do you have on hand, do you have any on order, how many have been committed for orders, and here's a case, I really picked a good one here. We need to order 65 because we're short, but anyway, to cover orders. Locations, there's no limit on the number of locations that you can set up in the system. There's no limit on the way you want to group items and in certain classifications. There's no limit on the terms of the number of vendors, and you can establish what you can use the vendor's code for this item. And there's also a drill down to where if you've got a picture of that item and that sort of thing, that can be very helpful. The thing I probably want to highlight more on inventory, though, that from an accounting point of view that's crucial, is this business of going in and let's see if this is where I need it. Yeah, here we go. The adjustments audit list is probably one of the most important, from a control point of view, most important. Here's an example. Adjustments have been made to an item in the inventory and change the quantity. In other words, you go out and do a physical inventory and you reconcile the physical inventory to what you got on the books in the system. That's the point I'm trying to make. And this is how you can stay on top of and have an audit trail that very, very carefully documents what change was made, what on what item, and when that inventory was taken, and that sort of thing. Well, that's the end of the overview, and I've kind of rushed through it because I don't want to spend. Again, the next step is to go up and just let the marketing team know that you would like a personal demonstration of Office Accounting 365, and that doesn't matter whether you want it on the web or you want to host it inside your own company. Either way, we'll put together a demonstration and drill down specifically on the features and the capabilities that are going to be most important to you. Again, thank you for your interest. We appreciate it very much.